braking right here. He's braking, he locks the brake momentarily, hits the left side, hits the right side, just absolutely drove right into both of the walls. Of course, the left one threw him into the right one. Here's a view from the holiday, the third car on the frame, the red and white one. Right there comes in, boom, hits the left one, that threw him to the right. He really didn't have any steering, Paul, by the time he got to the right side. But that's Paul Tracy's fault. He drove right into the wall. Watch this on the left. Now, boom, right there. You can see his head lunge forward. He goes over and hits the right wall. That's the reason we saw both tires on both sides of the car.
What caused it, Bobby?
It was the driver's mistake. He just simply tried to straighten out that you came too straight, and you can't do that.
As you saw from the helicopter view, Danny Sullivan was right behind him and almost collected Paul when he came off of the wall.
Coming into this race, there was every reason to think that Paul would be a good rival for his new teammate, Michael Andretti, because they battle it out all season. If Paul could overcome his tendency to make mistakes, it was mistakes that crippled him last year and have conceivably led to his being released from Penske. Now, of course, he continues where he left off with mistakes.
Beautiful view here. That's the road so many have taken to the port of Miami, where the cruise ships are docked. You can see them there in the background. Shows you how truly picturesque this wonderful circuit is. Ralph Sanchez and his Miami Motorsports group have done a marvelous job putting this event together. Matter of fact, there are a whole series of yachts that are on the shoreline right along the edge of the racetrack here. So we are under full course caution. 4 laps have been scored into the record book. Michael Andretti started on the pole and led the early laps until this, actually the early lap and a half, until this incident involving Paul Tracy.
Now this turn right here, I want to explain this real quick. Those red things that you see on your screen are actually water barriers. And they're made for safety, like if you hit those things, they're full of water, and it absorbs the shock an awful lot.
Robbie Gordon started 14th, moved up to 10th in just 1 lap. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, one of the things we have to look at with a new facility is the fact that what are the fuel windows? Everybody's telling us that the window could start under a full course caution as early as lap 18. If that's the case, you see this OP on these Goodyear tires in Robbie Gordon's pit? He scuffed in the optional tire, that's what it stands for, and was the quickest car in most of the practice session this morning. It's a harder compound than what they qualified on. So what the team has done is they've taken the OP, the optional tires, put them on the wall. They are assuming that this race will have a lot of cautions, and they will stay out as long as they can after they duck in around lap 18 and take on the harder compound tires.
So with the tires here, Bobby, we're going to see a lot of interesting strategy.
Yes, for sure. And another thing you want to remember about that is that the cars have to start. Now, you wonder, why did he just go ahead and start with those hardwoods? They have to start the same thing they qualified on. Everybody that I know of went with the soft tires for qualifying, Paul.
The harder tire, of course, is a little slower, but has better life. We see Paul Tracy walking back. I wonder what could be going through his mind now, because obviously he's going to have to explain to his new team, to Carl Haas, to Paul Newman, to his mechanics, that he's gotten off to a bad start.
Sam, that's the 4th wreck or incident that Paul has had this weekend. He's just not getting along with his racetrack too good.
And historically, it's typical of him to start a season in the hole. He started with a 16th last year, and he's big trouble.
You guys are both former drivers. What does that do to the psyche? Here's a guy that has already had a number of crashes, not only this season, but before. What is that going to do to him?
Well, that's bad, and the reason is he just left he was with Penske last year. He wrecked a lot of cars for Roger Penske. There's talk that that's the reason he got released.
Let's go pit side, Gary Gerald.
Paul, keep an eye on the defending series champion, Al Unser Jr. He started back here at near mid-pack. They've reported a possible electrical problem. They thought about bringing him in. Roger Penske just made the decision no. He told him to stay on the track. So Junior's out there. We don't know if they've got gremlins. It's been a frustrating weekend for this team in a bid to open up a chance to defend that championship title.
Well, the pace begins to pick up as they come single file behind the PPG pace car. Michael Andretti leading them around, and we should head back toward a green flag just 2 turns from now. Great view back from Michael's car.
The car right behind Michael, the multicolored car, Mauricio Guzman, a former Formula One driver, really finding his way now in IndyCar ranks.
Guzman had trouble with his engine in the morning warm-up, barely got out at all. But obviously, whatever that problem was, they got it fixed. But look at the Baron right behind him, beginning to close in, battle developing for second place.
Yeah, the yellow Pennzoil car. We haven't seen that car run this good in a long time. And Savvy, who has been with the Pennzoil car for a long time, is a different car. racing.
In the back of the field, a number of cars now beginning to spring past Eric Bachelard, the 19 car back there.
Including Ray Hall, who's running back in 10th in that black and yellow car. Here we see the multicolored car of Christian Fittipaldi, third in line here. New to this kind of racing, but not new to racing. He's Emerson's nephew. He's had some top finishes in Formula One. I think he's going to make a very big impression on IndyCar.
Christian Fittipaldi currently running in 5th place. So strange with a name like Fittipaldi to see the 3 stripes of a rookie on the back of the car, but of course he is here at IndyCar. Let's go to Jackaroo.
Well, Paul Tracy has walked his way back to the entrance of pit road. What happened, Paul?
It's just disgusted, really. You know, I've had brake troubles all weekend, and just the rear tires locked up, and I couldn't stop. And it was either, you know, go through tried to cut it through the turn, but just hit the wall. So it's just a bad start to another year, I guess. So
seems like this cloud has been over your head for the last couple of years. How are you going to shake it?
I don't know. Just try to have a good race and have a good race for the Budweiser guys at Kmart in Australia, and you know, move on to the next one.
Good luck, Paul.
And look at the Pennzoil car, the number 8 car. That's the Baron as somebody lights up the brakes big time coming into the corner. He's been falling steadily backward after a great start and running up to 3rd place.
Anytime we see a lot of cars going into the chicane together like this, or excuse me, all apart, clear across the track, you're going to see a lot of brakes lighting up, a lot of smoke out of the tires, because there's only single file through there. You cannot get 2 cars through there together.
Well, it's obvious the Baron will be heading for the pits at the conclusion of this lap.
It's a powertrain problem. He's obviously got something wrong with the engine, Paul, because it's really lost its speed, but everything is still together. It looks like he's probably handling good.
Let's go to Darrell, Harry Darrell.
In the DeFerrin pit, we understand from the crew that it's most likely a gearbox problem. That's why he's limping along, so it relates to the powertrain, as Bobby suspected. Gearbox problems early on this first street course.
See, Bobby, you're not so old. You were right.
He was.
So at the front of the field, it's Michael Andretti being chased by Mauricio Gozzi. When you ride with Brian Herta, who sits down in the field right now in 17th position. Michael is our leader. 8 laps are complete. Danny Sullivan is now up in 3rd place. He was able to get around Christian Fittipaldi. And I'll tell you what, for a guy that's laid out for a year, it doesn't look like he forgot anything.
Well, he even joined us in the booth last year at Indianapolis, and at that point, I think he could have had a great future in television and any other things outside of the cockpit. But after a year away, he realized how much driving really meant to him, and he had this opportunity with this new team called Pac West. He's come back and made the most of it in very short order.
Let's set the field on the 11th lap. It's Michael Andretti in front, followed by Guzeli, then Danny Sullivan, then Christian Fittipaldi, Jacques Villeneuve, Raul Boisel, Al Unser Jr. up to 7th finally, then Scott Pruitt, Bobby Rahal, and Robbie Gordon rounds out the top 10. Oh, and we've got a car to the wall, and this is Brian Herta.
Herta has not had a good weekend. He had a crash on Friday after he had problems with his engine in the first session. And now, of course, he's put it in the wall again. The significant thing here, of course, Brian has very little experience, really, in IndyCar. He drove for A.J. Foyt last year up until his big accident in Toronto, where he was hurt. This was his first race after that. It's only his 6th start in IndyCar. At the turn, where there's been an awful lot of problems, Sam, through the practice and through qualifications, that's turn 12. We've had more wrecks there than probably all the others total together.
That's where Tracy had 4
tires. Yeah, that Tracy had 4 there, and the tires really saved Brian Herta. And you can see